Top 10 undebunkable proofs the Earth is flat. Number 1. It looks flat. Water is a two-dimensional substance. You cannot measure water and get a curve. Those that say you can are measuring the air, not the water. It has no height. It conforms to a container, and the container creates the height, but the water itself is just width and depth. This is our plane. The land comes out of the water and creates a container for the water. And by the way, there's an ice barrier with allegedly more land containing our waters, but the government won't let us explore it. Again, you cannot measure water and get a curve. Some measure the air to get two angles and find light refraction to get a 180-degree angle, or use sticks and shadows to get a 7-degree angle, or use gyroscopes to get a 15-degree drift to then get a sphere. But you're using a plane first. There is no proof that the sphere creates the plane. All observations point to the fact that planes create our shapes. You can make circles, but you can't prove it's a sphere without using a plane first. Water is our plane, and it looks flat. You can measure the water by using buoys, and the water's always at zero. The land comes out of the water, and we have a straight line from the left to the right, a horizontal line, the horizon. If the Earth were 25,000 miles in circumference, then using the Pythagorean theorem, we would have 8 inches for every mile squared of curvature. It's a ball, remember? So you would be able to measure its curvature. When you see boats go over the horizon, that would be it going over the curvature of the Earth. Most vanishing points at the beach looking out over at the oceans are 3 to 5 miles. At 3 miles, that's 72 inches of curvature, over 6 feet. And yet we zoom in on the horizon and we don't see the boat go over this curvature or sink off the ball of your Earth. We see the whole boat come back in view, whole and all. Also, we see above the horizon and beyond the horizon. At 30 miles, we see buildings that are under 150 feet tall that should be hidden by the Earth's curvature. At 50 to 60 miles, we shouldn't be able to see any buildings, and yet we do. The newsman calls this a mirage. Furthermore, if we use 8 inches per mile squared over the flattest plains we have in the world, you will find there's places that are just too flat to be curving around your ball. The curvature of the Earth would create elevation or altitude by the land curving around this spinning ball. The heliocentrist definition of level is having no higher point than another, conforming to the curvature of the liquid parts of the Earth's surface. This curvature would limit how many flat places you could have and also how flat they could be. The Bolivia salt flats are 4,000 square miles with no more than 3 feet of slope anywhere. The Maldives Islands rise out of the water no more than 6 feet. 1,192 islands spreading over 35,000 miles of flat water. Every mile, there should be 8 inches of curvature as the islands are curved to this spinning ball. And yet, they're called the flattest country in the world. The water's flat, and in some places, the land is too. The Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah are 12 miles long and 5 miles wide, and there's no more than a 7-foot differential in slope anywhere. The Nile River has a 1,000-mile stretch where there's no more than a 1-foot loss in elevation. This is not possible on a spinning ball. Now I bring this up to furthermore prove the measurements of 8 inches per mile squared disproves your ball and disproves your counters when you have too many flat surfaces that are not curving to this ball. There's places that are just too flat to be curving to a ball. Number 2, it feels flat. Motion has never been detected. Airy's failure experiment, the Michelson-Gale experiment, the Michelson-Morley experiment, and every other dork on the internet who has ever tried to show that the Earth is spinning has failed. Then Netflix even lied and took edited footage out of context without showing the experiment to show a flat earther allegedly say he proved the Earth is spinning. And yet scientists can't even recreate this experiment and prove the Earth is spinning. No scientist has ever proved the Earth is spinning. Furthermore, if the Earth is not a spinning ball, then you don't observe spheres. You see lights in the sky and you think they're balls because of NASA pictures, but you only see one side of them. The moon is a dark celestial body during a new moon, and when it's waxing and waning, you can see blue sky right through it. It's just not observably what they say it is. How can you land on something that's transparent only half the month? Number 3, no other experiment has proved otherwise. Snipers do not calculate for curvature. Airplanes do not dip their nose to calculate for the rotation of the Earth. Pendulums drift in any which direction on the ball bearing at the top. Bridges, canals, and choo-choo trains do not calculate for the curvature of the Earth. They just don't. And all engineers and land surveyors concur, although they don't want to necessarily be brought into the flat Earth discussion. Number 4, the flat Earth model is objectively true. So it looks flat, it feels flat, and nothing has said otherwise, other than pictures which can be computer generated, and have been. So in other words, without government pictures, you would just never know. The compass always points north. The compass doesn't point south. The flat Earth model has either a magnetic mountain or a tree that was petrified into a magnetic mountain in the center, and everything circumferencing the Earth. The Antarctic Treaty will not let you explore past the 60th parallel, and they will throw you in jail if you try. Antarctica has never been circumnavigated, and that's 100% fact. Number 5, there is no proof of gravity. By definition, gravity is only relevant if the Earth is spinning. It's a force that pulls everything into the center of a spinning ball. Gravity has no effect on the sponge. The sponge is floating on top of the water because it's more buoyant than the water. When the water's mass takes over the sponge, it will sink. But we can wring the sponge out and see it float again. It's the mass of the water sinking the sponge, not gravity. Buoyancy and density properly explain why things rise and fall. Like the hot air balloon because of helium. It's lighter than air. The rock tumbling from the cliffs is denser than air, so it falls to the ground. It's not gravity. Gravity is a hoax. Number 6, maps. No world map works except for the projected onto a plane map. The azimuthal equidistant projection map is the flat Earth map. It straightens out the meridian lines from the North Pole in the center. In 1892, a flat earther named Alex Gleason patented the map. In World War II, they used this map to show the transpolar relationship between the continents and even admitted that the other maps were misleading. The spin is that this map is just a projection of the globe and a distortion of the globe. As Gleason even admitted himself, this is the case. But as he explains in his book, they forced him to say this after denying him a patent the first time. AE maps came first, and the globe has never been used to navigate. Globes don't show the transpolar relationships, meaning they are misleading because they misplace the continents in their relationship to the North Pole. When you straighten out the meridian lines from north, you get a true distortion because it actually works as a map, and you're projecting it from a plane. Gleason's map was scaled using longitude and winter and summer solstice. Debunkers like to say it's inaccurate and not fit to scale, but that couldn't be more farther from the truth. The map has 2 patents. We have examples of this map being used in World War II, and there's even a disclaimer that says the other maps are misleading. And thirdly, the sizing and the scale of the smaller countries and the bigger countries that debunkers are referring to is a misunderstanding of the map and maps in general. This is a world map. To fit everything on one piece of paper, they distort the size of the countries to fit everything in. Map makers call this the Greenland effect. When using this map to chart local maps, experts say the azimuthal maps are not only accurate, but they're the only maps that truly work. Debunkers and even Google have made up flights that don't exist to try to discredit this map. Also, emergency landings from airplanes prove this map to be accurate. Flight plans also prove this map to be accurate. Furthermore, when you straighten out the meridian lines and follow the 180th line or the 160th line from New Zealand or Australia, you are in the Arctic Circle, or Antarctica, or as flat earthers like to call it, the Richard E. Byrd Ice Wall, and you're not anywhere near the South Pole. And you didn't come out the other side of their spinning ball. Number 7, the sun. The sun looks close. It's measured to be close because it is close. The flat earth model has the sun rotating around a fixed stationary earth, moving inward closer to the North Pole in the summer and around the circumference by the ice wall in the winter. This creates seasons and also time zones. The heliocentric model has changed their model regarding the sun numerous times to make the sun match what we see. They now say it's 93 million miles away and over 400,000 miles in diameter, which is 109 times bigger than the Earth. You have to move the sun so far away in order for the time zones to work, because the size of the sun would light up one side of the ball all at once. And it wasn't until recently they finally figured out how big in diameter their sun is. Copernicus, who started the ball revolution, said the sun was probably 3 million miles away. Kepler came along and said it was 56 million miles away. Now they say it's 93 million miles away, and they measured it using satellites and laser beams by comparing the light refraction of Mercury as it passed by. The Copernicus rays that come through the clouds show the angle of the sun and proves that it is close. You can triangulate it through measuring its light rays using a nautical sextant, and it measures to be very close, matching the natural observation that says it's close and not giant in diameter. It matches what we see. We also observe the light rays to come in at an angle even on summer solstice, when the sun's directly over us, debunking the Eratosthenes experiment in 240 BC. When they did a controlled experiment because they knew the Earth was 25,000 miles in circumference at the equator. So a couple of Greek cult members reversed the math in order to find a shadow that's 7 degrees so they could get their shadow to get their predetermined number. But the world didn't even accept heliocentrism even after Copernicus had a so-called heliocentric revolution in the 1500s. There was Bruno, who was stoned to death in 1600, and Galileo was imprisoned for teaching heliocentrism in the mid-1600s. Kepler killed Brahe because he was about to show the Earth isn't spinning. And then Newton's theories were never 100% accepted. And it wasn't until Einstein in the 1940s, with his theory of relativity, that heliocentrism started to take over the geocentric main staple. Hot air balloonists were rising above the Earth since the 1790s, and many of them were saying the Earth just looks too flat. Up until the 1950s, hot air balloonists were doing experiments, and many of the aeronauts were telling the papers the Earth was flat from above. It wasn't until 1958 that NASA was created, and now there was only one dominant cosmology. Geocentrism, aka flat Earth, was always around and well respected, and not mocked and ridiculed like it is today. Number 8, perspective. We see the sun to move around us and to move around us closer in the summer, making circles around us that are farther away from us in the winter. We also see the sun fall out of our perspective due to the vanishing point, as we're standing on a plane looking out and up as the sun moves away from us, vanishing out of our line of view. The law of perspective is repeated and repeated in our everyday occurrence, as we are looking out and we are looking up and we are looking beyond. As we look down and out at the streetlight poles, as we look out at railroad tracks, and as we look down the hallways. Artists have no problem drawing this on a flat piece of paper. What you can't do is mimic what we see on a ball. You have to use a flat piece of paper or a computer which uses 0 and 1 as its plane, as it computes the data. Furthermore, debunkers say things like the sun would change its size due to perspective, and then they say the sun doesn't change size or angular resolution. The truth is, the sun does appear bigger and smaller depending on what's going on with the air. Smoky clouds will make the sun look small. You are seeing the sun through the air, which causes a lensing effect, making it appear bigger or smaller. To therefore add a ball because you don't understand what you're looking at is not scientific. Furthermore, most of these debunkers never go outside and look at the sun or enjoy sunsets because they're too busy playing video games. Number 9. Water always flows downhill. On a globe, you would have stretches of rivers flowing uphill against the rotation of the earth all over the place. The Mississippi River, for instance, would have stretches that would flow uphill over 8 miles as it curves around the ball earth. And yet all water flows downhill. Number 10. Someone has to tell you it's a ball. NASA was created in 1958, right after Richard E. Byrd discovered more land. There's more resources. And to rub it in, the United Nations uses a flat earth map as their logo, as they give us a fake logo, a spinning ball, to match the worldview that teaches us you can reuse the creation to create a new creation. But this only works if everyone believes it, and it only lives in everybody's mind. It's not objectively true. Without the government telling you it's a spinning ball, you would just never know. And with the debunkers doing fake experiments and pre-planned experiments that are very controlled, you get a predetermined outcome, and you would never have any proofs outside of that the earth is a spinning ball. The earth is objectively and scientifically flat. And without so many wonderful people questioning the shape of the earth and challenging your cosmology, you would never even look into it. You wouldn't even think twice about this spinning ball. So you're welcome. The earth is flat.